Hello everybody, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed, the live television edition. It is Wednesday, August 7th, 2013, here at the MPTS studio. And of course, if you're watching us on MPTS, welcome, or online at ipmnation.com/MCUTV. And don't forget, I want to really get into the habit of reminding everybody, there is a live chat room on the website on ipmnation.com. So if you're too shy to call or to text, there is always that option too if you have a question or a comment or anything at all to say in the chat room, ipmnation.com/MCUTV. And of course, we have with us, as always, Little Mel, host of No Boundaries, Monday nights at 10:30 Eastern on ipmnation.com. And our guest this week is Lisa Wilbur. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
And you are our first libertarian on the show, I believe. I was trying to remember earlier if we had had a libertarian previously, but I don't think we have.
Should I be frightened?
No, I'm thrilled because we've had a lot of Republicans and Democrats, and it's nice to talk with someone. We actually had a great conversation off air, and we'll have to try to just repeat all that. I should have written it down. Sometimes I wish I was a stenographer. I could just do that and then just repeat everything. But and you're also an entrepreneur, and you did bring a book also, A View from the Top, that you're a part of, and you helped put this together, correct? Or you were?
Yes. Yes.
And this is about, you're a very successful Avon representative? Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't sure what the correct term was. You're number 6 in the country, correct?
Yes, and I always thought it would be great if somebody put together a book with the top producers in Avon.
Yeah.
And I thought that for a few years, and then last year I realized I'm somebody too. So I got 22 of my buddies together, and we each wrote a chapter.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And so that's volume 1. There's another volume coming out next year.
And you've published a couple other books as well, is that correct?
I've written myself 3 other books.
Okay.
And I'm co-authored about 10 others.
Oh, wow. You've been very busy with that.
Yeah. Giving it my best shot.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to chat a little bit more about that in a bit. I do want to get to some politics right off the bat, because something that's come up a lot on Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, the show that Gary Hopper and I do at Wednesdays at 6 p.m., is trying to take Justice David Souter's house in that eminent domain. What year was that? That was.
It had to be. I believe it was 2005 or 6. It was early.
So you were directly involved in that, correct? In that effort?
Yes, and actually, I wish I was a little bit more involved. But my daughter was born that year.
Oh, wow.
In 2005, so I was panicked with new motherhood and trying to be as involved as I could. But they attended more events than I did. Okay.
Can you kind of give us the backstory on that? Thus far, I've only heard Gary's version of it. He alludes to it often, but...
I think when we heard the story of the woman with the pink house getting it seized, for us that was just like, you've got to be kidding me. And then for us, when we realized that David Souter was in our own town, we thought to ourselves, how would he feel if this happened to him?
Right.
That was the premise for it.
So the woman with the house who was seized, that was under the rules of eminent domain, correct?
Yes.
That says the government can...
And it's not like they were taking it to put in some freeway into New York that was needed. Mm-hmm. It was like a mall project or a hotel. Or it was something that was not, a whole community would use, like a highway. Even the highway, I'm not sure that's, seizing someone's property.
That's a big deal.
Yes, I would think it is. And so that's how we were thinking about it at that time. Can't we take a stand so that he and everyone else realizes this is bad?
Yeah, because this went all the way to the Supreme Court, right? Eminent domain was challenged in the Supreme Court, and
he voted for
to uphold eminent domain and said that was fine. Which really is, obviously, he said the letter of the law. According to the letter of the law, that was fine to take this woman's house. But there's a difference, of course, between, and I'm no expert on this stuff, but I know there's a difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And the spirit of the law, like you said, it's if you're doing something if you have to put a highway or a road somewhere, something that directly impacts and benefits the community, that's one thing, which is really what eminent domain is supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about, and we're all capitalists here, but it's not supposed to be about benefiting someone who, like you said, wants to put in a mall or something.
That never happened. They seized her house, and they never did that with the land. So they ruined her life for no reason.
Right.
So
Because just because they seize the property doesn't mean that the project that they're doing is necessarily going to come to fruition.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can almost see eminent domain, like when they put in 95 through New York City, if they hadn't had it, I don't know how they would have done the project, because they'd have been going around,
Sure.
you know. I can almost see it in that case.
Yeah.
But this case, it was just outrageous enough that we thought there must be some way that we can make people wake up and realize this is going on.
Yeah.
And not just there. It goes on a lot. It goes on still.
Sure, sure. So David Souter voted yes in the Supreme Court. So the idea was, okay, let's see how he likes it.
Yes.
Is that basically to make
Yes.
the point?
Yeah, except we didn't sell it well enough in town, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think they thought we were doing the same thing to him that the government did to the woman in Connecticut. And that really, we wanted, it was in essence, but we wanted to see how he would feel when that happened to him. But the town was like, no, because they didn't understand. We were trying to make a point.
Right, right.
So-
And they completely missed the point.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, when I was up there, I took the mic and I said, my daughter was maybe 7 months old or something like that. She's in her stroller, and matter of fact, our representative, Mr. Kirk, said, why are you even doing this? I don't get your thing. And I said, because I'm standing here watching our rights evaporate before my eyes, and I don't want to have to tell my daughter that I watched it happen and did nothing.
Right.
I mean, she's a little kid. Well, how am I
Exactly.
explaining this to her?
Right,
So
exactly.
it meant that much to me.
Yeah, absolutely. How far did you get with this?
Not far. We didn't. We didn't get past the town meeting.
Okay.
That's what happened. Is they were upset that it could happen to David Souter, but didn't realize it already happened to someone else.
Right.
They were worried about protecting David Souter's rights, but weren't worried about protecting everybody else's.
Right.
So I feel like we didn't sell it well enough so that they realized why we were doing it.
Sure, sure. Now, you don't currently hold public office, right, because you're a libertarian, and unfortunately libertarians don't get elected.
Correct.
Well, you've run several times.
I've
for
run
state
7
rep, right?
times, yes, for state representative 7 times.
And you've actually run against Gary, correct, because you live in the
Yes,
same town?
yes, yes, yes.
How difficult is it? I mean, if, for someone who, my perception is it's extremely difficult for anyone who's not a Republican or Democrat to really
That's correct.
get very far. I mean, when I think of examples of someone even making any sort of headway, I mean, I immediately think of someone like Ross Perot, for example, who, not a libertarian, he had his own, you know, his Reform Party, but when he ran for president in '92, I mean, for an independent, he actually did really well. And then I try to think of other examples, and it's hard to come up with
Well,
many.
name recognition does, I mean, over the 7 times that I've run,
Yeah.
I've increasingly gotten more votes. Unfortunately, I don't think the people voting for me, all of them, are voting because of my stand on the issues. A lot of times they're voting because they've heard of my business, I've done well in business,
Sure.
or they know my name, or I have the best signs, or something like that.
Sure.
I know that's a cynical approach, but I know name recognition is some of the reason I get quite a few votes.
Sure, no doubt.
But when it comes right down to it, we were talking about this before the show, people vote party lines, straight
Yeah.
party tickets.
Yeah.
So even though I've run against people who have gotten hugely bad publicity right before the election or something like that, people will still not take a chance to vote outside their party, even though I thought I was a better candidate.
Right, right.
But, and I told you this too, to be a third party, because the other 2 parties set the rules,
Yes.
I have to get 150 certified petitions to get on the ballot. The other Democrats, Republicans pay $2 and get on.
Right.
So I have to go out and every time do that.
The system protects its own.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the times, a lot of the voters don't even look at what the stand of the parties are.
Right.
Because one time I'm out in front of Langtot's little grocery store in our town collecting my 150 thing, and actually I have to collect about 300 because they throw some out. And
Why is that? Why do they disqualify some?
they've gotten better, but used to be, if they didn't feel the signature was exactly the same as on their voter ID card, they would throw it out. Yeah, I'm serious.
Well, yeah, the system protects its own.
Yeah. And one year, what was really comical, and this was a few years back, so I don't want to say anybody there now is doing this.
Sure.
But one year, when I went to get one of the selectmen had signed for me, and they disqualified him because they said the signature didn't match. I said, he's in the building. Let's go ask him, because basically you're telling me I'm forging these signatures,
right.
and they wouldn't allow me to do it.
Wow. No
so,
kidding.
I mean, some of the things that we've had to do to get on the ballot have been crazy. But when I was standing out in front of the grocery store trying to get my signatures, I was trying to explain in a short way why I had to have it. And a farmer from our town came up and he said, why are you doing that anyway? And I said, because I'm a libertarian and third parties have to collect these to get on the ballot. And he says, I'm not supporting no Libyans. So, I know.
Well, didn't Gaddafi used to be your party chairman or something?
So it's like so crazy.
Yeah. What inspired you to run? You've run 7 times. What inspired you the first time to run? What?
Oh, you're probably gonna like this. I actually had a big sign on my front lawn, and I had to be 8 feet tall. No. Bigger than that, probably 16 feet tall, with changeable copy on it.
Yeah.
And the town, the state, it's on a state road, and I didn't realize at that time that strip of road was owned by the state. I wrongly believed I owned the property in front of my own little store.
Yeah.
They own right up to the building, and I didn't know that.
Oh, no kidding.
And I put a big sign there, and a business down the road from me had been putting a sign out there, and the state had stopped him and said, that's too close to the road. And he said, if you're going to make me move mine, you better make everybody all up and down the street do it. And the state guy said, sure.
Oh, they love that.
So 18 of us all got tagged. And when that happens to me, something like that in business, usually I sit around and say, how can I make this benefit my business somehow? Mm-hmm. So our first thought, me and my mom, because we own the little store there, the Avon store, we were thinking because the Pine Tree Riot took place on my property.
The what?
The Pine Tree Riot was one of the first skirmishes in the Revolutionary War.
Oh, okay.
There's a monument right by the road,
a
concrete wheel. Right by the road on my property.
Oh, that's cool.
And we thought, we'll chain ourselves to the sign and protest, because the state said they would cut it down if we didn't take it down.
Right.
And that the first letter they said that, we'll cut it down. So we're thinking, we'll chain ourselves to the sign.
Yeah.
But then they wouldn't say when. So we're thinking, we could be out there for weeks because this is the state. So Plan B was what I did do. I changed the copy on the sign to say, Big Brother State of New Hampshire making me move my sign. Yeah. And I called all the newspapers. Well, the Concord Monitor sent out a reporter. So there was actually a picture of me with the sign, the name of my company, my street address, and it was practically an ad. Yeah. And I did so well for my business.
Wow.
I got more business from that article, which was on the front page, below the fold, but still front page, than I ever got from the sign itself.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So,
wow.
So I eventually didn't end up getting to keep the sign.
Yeah.
They still made me move it.
Yeah.
But people came in when they saw the article, and one of the people that came in to buy Avon from me, she said, you know what you ought to do? You ought to run for office and use the sign as your issue. And that was the first year I ran.
Okay.
That was 2000.
Yeah.
And then it was a positive experience because I thought the opinions that I had as a libertarian weren't being heard in the elections.
Right.
So I've done it every 2 years thinking there needs to be somebody that's willing to say there's a different opinion out here, and a lot of people do have it.
Right, right. Can you explain libertarianism? How do you explain it to someone who thinks that it's the same as being Libyan or something?
Well, I'm representing my own views here, not the party.
Sure.
What I say is the way I explain it.
Yeah.
And
because libertarians aren't monolithic, just like Republicans and Democrats. They may vote in a monolithic fashion, but
they're not all the same.
Right. Yeah.
In my view, people all the time say, "I wish there was a party that was socially like the Democrats and fiscally conservative like the Republicans," and there is. That's libertarians.
Yeah.
Because, for example, I don't care if 2 men or 2 women marry each other. long as they don't hurt me,
Right.
that's fine with me.
Right.
But that would be against the Republican stand. And I'm more fiscally conservative of what the Republicans say they are.
Yeah.
That would be more.
Right.
So it's in the middle,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, more than people realize.
Right. It definitely. It's funny because there are so many people who I've known who, as the two parties have become more polarized, and this is one of the things that drove me out of the Democratic Party. I used to be a Democrat, but I do have some conservative values, and I have some libertarian attitudes about certain things as well, and I certainly can't argue with anything you just said. But as the two parties became more polarized, I became uncomfortable with being a Democrat for that reason. And a lot of it was, feeling like, okay, well, I am a fiscal conservative, but I do tend to be more liberal on these social issues. And so I no longer felt at home being a part of a party, and I got to a point where I can't do the whole herd thing, because, and this was something we talked about off air, but I feel that the two-party system is bad for the country for a number of reasons, I feel, and that's why one of the reasons I'm done with it. In fact, I voted for a libertarian in the presidential election. I voted for Gary Johnson. I did vote for Obama in 2008, but I decided to go third party in 2012. And I feel that being a part of a party, and people will get angry with me for saying this, but the show's called Unleashed for a reason. I say what I think. I think it really, for a lot of people, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, it fosters a sort of intellectual laziness where these people, they abdicate their any responsibility for thinking for themselves, for independent thought.
Ditto heads.
The ditto heads are the worst. Yeah, the ditto heads are the worst because and look, I'm not. Anyone who listens to Rush Limbaugh, I'm not criticizing you. If any ditto heads watching, I'm not criticizing you because of your politics. If you want to be a conservative and agree with Rush Limbaugh, that's fine. But that these people actually call themselves ditto heads, and say things like wear their stupid little T-shirts and have their stupid little Rush Limbaugh coffee mugs that say mega dittos on them. Why anyone would be proud of and want to advertise the fact that they agree with another human being on absolutely everything and refuse to question anything this person says and actually call themselves ditto heads. How little I'm ranting here, but how little self-respect does a person have to actually say mega dittos to everything this guy on the radio says? I would be freaked out if somebody said to me that they agree with me on absolutely everything 100%. I would be like, well, I'm glad you agree with me on some stuff, but you agree with me on everything? Really?
I wouldn't even believe them.
Yeah, it'd be weird to me. It'd be like, okay, I'm flattered by that, but I'd be kind of weirded out at the same time. Like, well, don't agree with me on everything. If you want to agree with me on 99% of stuff, oh, that's great, but don't agree with me on everything. That's weird. People should think for themselves. It's like Reagan said, and I always bring this up when I'm talking to Republicans about this because, Reagan is their big hero. I say, Reagan himself said, if two people agree on everything all the time, it means one of them isn't thinking. And, of course, he said that defending his pick of George H.W. Bush for vice president because I remember Bush at the time had always been pro-choice and Reagan was very pro-life, and people were questioning him, well, how can you pick a pro-choicer who then magically had a transformation, as so many of them do, because they have to go along with the herd to get elected. So I get very frustrated, and the example I always use, and we talked about this off air too, but the example I always use is gas prices and this whole herd mentality thing. When George H.W. Bush was president, and we saw that first huge spike in gas prices, you had Democrats screaming about, well, why doesn't Bush do something about the price of gas? And Republicans defending him, saying, and I believe correctly, saying, well, the president doesn't control the price of gas, you can't blame him. And then Obama gets in, and we see another big spike in gas prices, and the inverse happens. Republicans blame him, Democrats stick up for him. And it's like, these people decide whether or not to be upset with the president over the price of gas, depending on whether he's their guy or the other party's person. And what a dumb reason to decide how to feel about something. Just no. God forbid anyone look a little bit deeper into it and try to figure out, well, what really causes the price of gas to be as high as it is? Or no, instead it's, well, I'm a Republican, I have to hate Obama because that's what the herd I belong to says, so I'm going to blame him. And we saw the inverse of that when Bush was president.
That's also why a third party has a hard time making a foothold, because every time I run, they come up to me and say, the other parties come up to me and say, do you know, because of you, you're taking votes away from. And I'm like, hey, how do you know they're not taking votes away from me?
Right.
You know what I mean? People who really thought through the issue should be voting for the person they think best represents them.
Exactly.
And instead, they're going around blaming the other guys, and the best reason they can come up with is you're taking votes away from their guy?
Exactly, yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. Have you always been a libertarian, or were you at one time part of a party? Or?
Well, I've been a libertarian since I was old enough to vote.
Wow.
But that's because I ran into a booth of libertarians, and they had that quiz where you find out where you are on the political spectrum.
Oh, okay.
The world's smallest quiz. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
You haven't seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did that, and I realized I just didn't fit in one of the other categories.
Right, yeah. And we have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's on the line?
Hi, I just want to let you know there's no sound.
That's not good. Are you watching us online or on
No, TV.
on TV?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So I better call them and let them know.
Okay. I'm being told there is sound. I don't know. Check.
Well, maybe it's...
Maybe you've got us on mute. People do put me on mute sometimes when I start ranting. I've been told. We have focus groups that research this.
I just turned it on. Your show on.
Yeah.
And the other station, I had it on 22 before that.
22? How dare you?
Oh, wow.
You should leave it here all the time.
So you have... I like this station. I do. I watch... what's his name? Howard, too. How is Howard doing? Have you seen him?
I have not seen him today. The great Howard McCarthy. I hope he's doing okay. I know he's had some problems, but we always play him at the end of Norman Friends.
Surgery.
Oh, did he have surgery?
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
he
wow.
had don't tell him I told you. He doesn't talk about it. He had a rupture, but
Okay.
he's got another one. He's got two. And they're trying to see how things go.
Yeah.
So he's not supposed to lift anything or anything. So if you see him lifting anything, you just spank him good.
I don't know about spanking him. I might say something to him about it, like Howard. The thing is, I don't spank men. Hey, look, I make no judgments. I mean, if some other dudes want to spank each other, that's their thing. I mean,
Yeah.
That's not an approved activity in the man village.
No.
Yeah, you tell him, say, no, put that down.
Oh, you mean like a verbal spanking?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll verbally spank him.
Yeah.
Or I'll threaten him. I'll say, Howard, put that down or I will spank you. Because I think he kind of rolls the same way I do with that, so he'll probably put it down. He doesn't want me spanking him.
No. Okay, then.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Thanks, you too.
I'm going to call Comcast, so it must be something in Comcast.
Probably.
You get sound.
I blame them for everything. Well, them and Obama.
Them and Obama?
Yeah, it's kind of the cool thing. Everything's Obama's
really?
fault, really. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we might get a change. We might get Hillary.
I think that's a good possibility. Or a bad possibility,
that's
depending
a
on
great
your point of
idea,
view.
I think.
What's that?
I think that's a great idea if we can get Hillary.
Oh, I don't know.
Between her and her husband, I'm sure they can do something.
Yeah, I think they're part of a larger problem, but we'll see. But thank you for calling.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I don't think you're supposed to cringe like that.
Did I cringe? I will say this. I have a theory about Hillary, and I don't know if I've ever told anyone this. You know how they used to talk about Reagan, how Reagan scared people? Like the Russians, they were afraid of Reagan. I mean, I don't know how much of that is kind of mythology and how much of it's true, but there was always this theory that the Russians were afraid of Reagan because he came off as such a cowboy. So there was this idea that he's dangerous. He might actually nuke us or something. My theory has always been that if Hillary were president, there would be that same sort of fear. There's something about her. I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't mean that she's unhinged or something, or that she's a cowgirl. I just mean there's something. She projects a certain toughness.
I'm scared where this is headed.
No, I actually mean this in a complimentary way. This is something where I would not worry about her, is that, as president, is that I think she would project a certain toughness, kind of like a Margaret Thatcher.
How tall was Reagan?
How tall was he?
Yeah.
He was at least 6 feet. Why?
Because,
I assume he was.
And I mean this in the best possible way, of course.
Yeah.
Men seem to value tallness in the man village over IQ. Did you ever notice that?
Yes.
So...
Well, with rare exception,
be,
John Kerry lost to George W. Bush, and he was taller. But,
but it could be Reagan's stance was intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think Hillary projects I don't know. It's just a theory that I have. I would have preferred her over Obama, to be honest, to be blunt. But
I was actually watching MSNBC this morning, and they were talking about Hillary, and they brought up the fact that I guess like there are these different stations that are doing like these biopics on her and everything,
Yeah.
and painting her in this like really good light. And someone made the point that in like the primary, what people like look for is that like fresh face, and so they're
Right.
saying by doing this now, when 2016 rolls around, she's not going to have like a fresh message, and she's going to be like old, and that might be problematic for her.
yeah, the Reince Priebus and these other people are freaking out. We have another caller on hold. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's on the line? Hello? Is anyone there? Is it the Phantom?
This is Matthew Connarton.
Yes, yes. Who's this?
Well, this is the lovely and talented Glenn R.J. Ouellette.
Wow. Lisa, I don't know if you're familiar with Glenn R.J. Ouellette. He's an independent. He's actually running for mayor of Manchester.
That's why I was calling. I wanted to say that when I was in the state of Maine,
Yes.
I was a librarian as well. So I am familiar with the Librarian Party.
The Librarian Party, yes.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Well,
I used to have a Puerto Rican and Asian boy library.
Oh,
and I was a librarian.
really? Well, that sounds like quite the library, Glenn R.J. Ouellette.
So so that's why I consider myself a part of the Librarian Party.
Yes.
And I am running for mayor of Manchester, New Hampshire.
Yes, yes.
And I'm going to be the people's mayor.
That's outstanding. Why are you running, Glenn?
Well, because I'm getting annoyed with the government. I listened to this fascinatingly lovely woman's story about the government and signs and things like that.
Yes.
And the government's been pushing me around like I'm a little guy as well, but they don't know who I really am.
Well, I think they know who you are, Glenn.
I'm that creepy guy that walks up and down Elm Street every day. That's what I am to them.
Yes. I suspect you're on a no-fly list or something.
Mitt Romney still has my keys.
Yes. Little backstory. So Glenn R.J. Ouellette, the people's mayor, he also owns QCEnews.com, and he went to a event that Mitt Romney was at, and apparently, allegedly, the Secret Service took Glenn's keys because one of the keys was snapped in half or something, so it could be used as a weapon, and they still have them, according to Glenn.
My global empire crumbled because of Mitt Romney. I blame Mitt Romney.
Yes. Yes. And so do some folks who used to work for Bain Capital. You have something in common with them.
I think so. And so I'm running for mayor because I want to put a young Latino, Hispanic, or Asian boy in every man's home.
Uh-huh. Well, of course you do.
And I want them to be there by will.
Right, yes.
I want them to want to be there. And I think as mayor of this great city of Manchester,
Yes.
I can have that power because I will have my mayoral mansion. Because I believe that's what you get when you run for mayor. You get this palace in Manchester.
Yes, yes.
And I will have all the manservants I could use.
Well, that's fantastic. And clearly that's what separates you from Mayor Gatsis, because I don't believe he has such a thing.
I have a question for Glenn.
Yes.
Glenn, do you feel that dyeing your hair brunette has helped your bid for mayorship? And also, how come you didn't dye your mustache as well?
Good question.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to George Clooney it up. I wanted to kind of be half and half, because sometimes he uses the salt and pepper, and that drives the ladies crazy. So I figure if I look like a Clooney-type candidate, because
Yes.
that was the only thing Romney had going for himself, was he was a good-looking man.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from the fact that he had no personality, he's still a sexy man.
Yes.
So I'm trying to be the same thing. I want to be a sexy man with my Crypt Keeper-like body.
Yes.
And I want to say also, I'm a big fan of Avon because being half black that I am, I have a lot of ashy skin.
Oh,
So I
my.
use the Skin So Soft all over my body.
Wow. Well, a little TMI there, Glenn R.J. Willett.
Yeah.
Well, this is the family hour. This is a family show. So I
Yes,
just wanna
yes.
get-
Family programming. Family programming. We don't want you running in here upset.
And I don't want to have any more lawsuits against you, Mr. Connarton.
Right. I appreciate that, Glenn R.J. Willett.
But I'm happy you've given me the time
Yes.
to come on and announce my mayoral race. Now, you know, last time I ran for mayor, there was a lot of controversy,
Yes.
and I had to drop out. This time, I'm not letting those bullies push me around.
Good, good. So no.
I am bi and proud,
Yes, yes, you are, Glenn R.J. Willett. And we're proud of you.
and I have no financial history. I have no money, so they're not going to have to look at my taxes because I haven't paid taxes in 20 years.
Well, that's excellent. Good for you. And by the way, you know, Glenn, I'm trying to figure out. I reside in Concord, as you know, but I'm researching the best way to. I want to commit voter fraud on your behalf, so I can support you in your effort to become mayor.
Well,
So you can count on my
go
vote.
to the voting booth, bring up dead people,
Dead people, yes.
and just take a visit to the cemeteries. Write down as many dead people as you can find, and go in and vote for me because that's how I will win.
Yes. Vote early, vote often, vote dead.
Yes. And I will be outside of the place with a few of my helpers,
Uh-huh.
and they will be handing out sombreros and fake mustaches. So you can go in as multiple people.
Oh, how festive. I'll be there.
Because that's how the people's mayor is going to win, by having 2 or 3 people act like they're 40 people.
Wow, that's
It's
outstanding.
all part of my diabolical plan to take over the world from my global empire here in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Do you know you just said that last part out loud, Glenn? I don't think you want to make that part of your campaign. Yeah.
This better not hinder my votes, because if you are the one that ruins my campaign, Matt Connarton, I will send another nasty letter.
Yes. We don't want that. You know how much I hate those complaint emails.
He might
And
even
I
hold
will
a press
do another
conference.
2-hour press conference by myself, announcing that I'm going to write a letter to you, because this is a smear campaign against Glenn R.J. Willett.
Yes. No, no one is out to smear you, Glenn R.J. Willett. You are, after all, the people's mayor.
Yes. And I love the people, especially when the people want to spend the night. So I want to
Yes.
thank you for giving me your time.
Any-
I'm going to let you go and talk about the library again. It's
Yes.
fascinating about being librarians.
Yes, yes.
And remember, go out and vote. I will be having a fundraiser at New Horizons, because that's where I eat every night.
Yes.
I'll be having a fundraiser at the Soup Kitchen,
Uh-huh.
where if you want to give me extra slices of Wonder Bread, or if you want to give me your soup, I will take that as donations.
Well, that's fantastic. Good for you, Glenn R.J. Willett.
So have a wonderful show, and remember, I still hate you.
Yes, yes,
And
of
goodbye.
course. All right. Goodbye, Glenn. Thank you. That was Glenn R.J. Willett running for mayor of Manchester.
That's him calling.
Oh.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So-
I guess political correctness is not on his radar.
No. He needs to be careful.
Oh, no. He can feel free. That way everybody has a genuine...
Well, that's true. I mean, he definitely puts it
Yeah.
all out there.
Yes.
Yeah. He
And
did
that's
run in.
best.
He ran in 2008, and
Fabulous.
I don't know how well he did, but I don't remember what we were talking about before. so you've run 7 times.
Yes.
For
Yes.
state rep.
Yes.
Okay. Do you plan to continue to do that?
Yes.
And are you able to get accurate information every time you run? When everything's tallied up, do they give you a number so you know how well you did?
Yes. And you not right off. Usually it's a couple days. Actually, it's a lot quicker now than it was in 2000.
Really?
Usually a couple days the state puts the numbers up
Yeah.
on the state website.
Oh, okay.
So you know.
Oh, we have another call. Well, it was a busy show today. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's on the line?
This is Glenn Willett speaking.
Glenn.
The real Glenn Willett, and you are a disgrace, especially to your guest. You have a guest, and you insist that was me when you knew that it was Dan Roulette that was on the phone. She represents exactly what I don't represent. So at least when you know that it's not me, and you knew that it wasn't, because you already set it up, you should at least have a disclaimer.
I didn't set anything.
Honest with it. Secondly, we should be talking about the issues.
Yes.
And you're not talking about issues.
What issues would
Everything you said there is totally wrong. And for your position, in 2008, I did not get out of the race. I came in 4th out of 5th. So that's how much your information is not even correct. Talk about being politically correct.
I never said you got out of it.
You are a disgrace to Carol 23. Because you do not allow people to have others represent you instead. Have a good show, and I feel bad for your guest because she thought that it was really me that was speaking, and it wasn't.
Okay, Glenn. Well, have a good day. So apparently that was the real Glenn R.J. Blatt, and he feels badly for you, Lisa. Oh my goodness. So anyway, so you're able to get a tally every time that you run?
Yes.
And have you seen that? Because obviously it's you're running against the machine,
right,
of the two parties. So
and it hasn't gone. It has gone up as a percent wise, but what happens is elections on the years where we have a presidential election, there's far more voters.
Okay.
My vote tally goes up and down according to that, but the percentages have gone up.
Good.
So I actually, didn't do too bad.
Yeah, that's excellent.
So I actually have a question, and I apologize if this is an obvious answer, but I'm still kind of learning this whole political thing, thanks to Matt. So you mentioned that, like, a libertarian is kind of someone who is, socially liberal, fiscally conservative.
Yes.
So if that's the case, where's the line drawn between a libertarian and an independent? Because I consider myself fiscally conservative, socially liberal, but I consider myself like an independent. So what's the difference between the two?
And I don't know the answer to that, because to me, when someone says they're independent, it almost means like they haven't made up their mind. So I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, because an independent isn't. If you're a libertarian,
when you say you're independent, you're not giving people enough information so that they know where your positions are.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. You have the free will of. I think. Are you saying independent like you want to have the free will to vote for anyone you want? That's how you're using the word?
I think so.
Well, it's kind of an ambiguous term in the sense that you could be an independent who doesn't belong to any party,
right?
Or you could be an independent in terms of, well, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. So you could think of it as, well, I'm a libertarian, but I'm an independent because I'm not a Republican or Democrat. So it's kind of ambiguous that way.
I think I more look at it that I don't belong to any particular party. That when I'm, because I feel like if you're a Republican, if you're part of the Republican Party, you must agree with every single thing the Republicans say, and if you don't, then clearly you're not a real Republican. And I'm more about, I may agree with some of the Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, and whatnot, but I make up my own mind. I may see a candidate who, okay, maybe I agree with 50% of what they say, but I disagree with the rest. And I feel like if you're a Democrat and you say that, then you're not really a Democrat because you don't agree with 100%. So that's why. I've been independent since I was old enough to vote, and I just kind of wanted to give myself that chance to vote for who I wanted to vote for and not feel like I had to vote for a certain party, if that makes any sense.
I think it makes sense as a voter, but when you go to run, if you run as an independent, I don't think it gives. It's hard enough to run as anything other than a Democrat or Republican. Yeah. But if you run as an independent, you're really not giving them any idea where you stand.
So I guess
that's why I wouldn't do it. That's why I say, or I declare libertarian, so that at least people have some kind of idea.
So as far as being a voter, if you're a voter and you say, there's one voter that's I'm libertarian, then there's one voter that says I'm independent, what's the difference between those?
No, actually, I think I'm on the rolls as an independent because in this state we haven't earned the right to have declare to be a libertarian. So I have no choice but to be an independent. So I think it's more like what they forced me to be, as a because they're not allowing me to be a libertarian
Yeah.
because the Democrats and Republicans decide what the level is.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's 4% that they have to get at the gubernatorial level
Okay.
in order to have the party recognized to be on the ballot by itself.
And I assume that that's true in most states. I mean, I don't know if
Probably.
you-
And when you get to that, they raise it. So
right.
because when I first started running in 2000, I needed 100 petitions to get on the ballot. Now I need 150.
Okay.
So we were getting 100 too easy.
Yeah, so they just keep raising the bar.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and actually, I think it's kind of humorous because I'm an Avon representative. Too bad I just can't make Mary Kay illegal or make it harder for them.
Are they like your bitter enemy, Mary Kay?
Mary who?
Mary Kay.
Not bitter enemies. I think it's a lot different target market.
Oh, well, they're mostly makeup
different.
and stuff, right? Mary
Makeup
Kay?
and skincare.
Makeup and skincare, yeah.
Where Avon, you want to guess the #1 product that I sell? Hundreds of thousands of them over the 30 years. Number one
Something
thing.
in jewelry.
No,
No?
no. Costs 99 cents. You use it every day, hopefully.
Deodorant?
Yes.
Oh, no kidding.
Roll-on deodorant is my #1 seller and has been for 30 years.
No
Wow.
kidding. Wow.
Where Mary Kay is more like a glamour thing. So
Yeah.
it's a different target market, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Definitely.
So,
How much of an organization is there with the Libertarian Party? Obviously, the Democrats and the Republicans, they have these huge machines. I mean, is there something, I would assume it would obviously be much more limited because
Well,
you're a third party, but is
this
there,
is my opinion again only.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's a little bit harder because libertarian-minded people are harder to corral and get to do something. For example, I don't play well with others is why I'm an entrepreneur.
yeah,
So I haven't done a lot with the state organization, and they have one, Libertarian State Organization. So they accuse me lots of times of being a maverick and doing what I want, and I do that.
Yeah.
And I do that in my business too,
Yeah.
and get in trouble for it often. But that's the kind of personality, I think, that's attracted to both being an entrepreneur and being a libertarian.
that makes sense.
So
yeah.
it is going to be harder for that type of personality to get together and have a party.
Yeah,
And they do have one, and it's big, and it is national, and they have one in New Hampshire.
yeah.
But do I do things with the state? No. Should I? Yes. It would make them much stronger, but my personality type, it's hard. I
Yeah.
don't play well with others.
Now, are there a lot of Republicans who are really libertarians in your view? Something that
There's
Gary,
some.
yeah,
There's
something that Gary complains about on Rock Paper Hand Grenades
Yeah.
sometimes is that a lot of these Republicans are really libertarians or free staters.
No, and,
or,
and I told you that off air.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, that's like a pet peeve of mine. If, to me, I had a Republican come up to me the second time I ran, and prominent Republican in my district, and he said to me, you know, you get elected a lot faster if you told him you're a Republican.
yeah,
And I said, you know, I'd get a bank loan a lot faster if I told him I was a man. I'm not going to do that either.
Right.
To me, there's a level of integrity that I don't want to sink below.
Right.
And to tell people that I'm something I'm not, even if it's not the outcome I want,
Yeah.
is more important to me.
right,
So, and I've had the Republicans that are now in office that are libertarians say to me, you're naive to think that you can continue to run as a libertarian and ever get it. And I said, maybe that's true. But you know what? I'm not willing to lower my standards
Yeah.
just because you don't believe it's possible.
right.
I'd
right.
rather be hated for someone that I am than liked for someone that I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah,
And if it takes me 15 times running to prove my point, I'm in it for the 15 times.
Yeah.
I figure eventually I'll outlive everybody else and get it. I mean, the name recognition after you've run that many times, there is a chance I get it.
sure.
In my work, that has worked for me.
yeah,
What are the odds are that a Avon representative, a little Avon lady out in Ware, New Hampshire, a town of 6,000, would be number 6 in the country out of 600,000 Avon ladies?
yeah.
I outlasted them.
It can
Most
be
of my
done, yeah.
competition stopped doing it. I just kept at it, kept at it, kept at it,
Right.
and that can work in politics too, hopefully.
Right, right, absolutely. Why do you think it is that? What is it about the Republican Party that you never see it go the other way, where these for the benefit of political expediency, why do they always go with Republicans?
Not Democrat? Yeah,
you never
I'm
see it
not
the other
sure.
way.
Because actually, I read this essay, and I wish I remember who the author was, but he pointed out ideology-wise, we're probably closer to Democrats as far as the social issues, which is such an important thing.
Right.
But it's just so distasteful about the other part of it, the fiscally. I think that's why, because I find that very hard. As, like when I'm talking with Gary, he has very strict conservative rules in his head, and I don't fit most of them.
Right.
So he has a hard time, understanding.
Yeah.
When we're talking, that always comes up because I don't fit what he hopes I will be.
Right.
And that's just the kind of person I am. That's why I'm a business owner and a libertarian, because I don't fit most people's in the box thinking.
As a business owner and as a libertarian, do things like zoning laws and blue laws just drive you crazy?
Yes. Matter of fact, in my town, I told you that 50 feet of property in front of my house was purchased by the state, by an owner before me somewhere, and I still pay commercial property tax on that. And I said, how can that be? I don't own any frontage.
Yeah.
And how they worded it on the little ticket up at the town is, I benefit from abutting frontage. So I benefit from the abutment of frontage. And that doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Wow.
in little towns, they just don't want to, I don't want to say all little towns everywhere, but like where in particular isn't necessarily business friendly.
Yeah.
When it's such a shame, because I pay taxes and I could pay more taxes if it was beneficial, and it's hard to have a business in a small town like that.
Yeah.
Because of the rules.
And I think in larger cities too, I hear people complain about Manchester just not, I mean, that's why we have so many empty storefronts on Elm Street.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not very business friendly. What do you think about New Hampshire in terms of that, in the larger picture? For a long time, I'd always assumed that, you hear about the New Hampshire advantage. And I had always assumed that that includes the business piece of it. And there are a lot of advantages to being here economically. We certainly weather recessions better than most states. Our unemployment rate's always one of the lowest in the country. But over the last couple of years, I've learned that New Hampshire is typically not ranked very favorably in terms of how business friendly it is. What are your thoughts on that as a state?
Well, in my personal experiences, it's been fine. As
Really?
some of the things, I look with wonder when they come after you for things, crazy things. And I do have an employee, and I've had up to, 10 employees. I owned a Curves franchise for a while.
Okay.
So I've had up to 10 employees. Some of the rules and regulations seem crazy.
Yeah.
When I closed the Curves franchise, because I consistently lost money, I went down from 10 employees to 1, and I end up paying like an $875. My workman's comp only went down a little bit, and I said, why is that? It's something to do with a state regulation that they have a minimum they must charge you.
Okay.
And it's like, are you kidding? I went from a high risk, the trainers at a Curves facility, to an admin, and I'm paying the same money just because there's a minimum cap on it. So it just seem a little crazy, and I think to myself, if this is the live free or die state, we're in trouble. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the other states are worse. So
Yeah,
that seems a little
absolutely.
crazy.
One of the things that drove me out of the Democratic Party was the realization that there's something weirdly sort of inherently anti-business about how Democrats approach these things, and there's sort of a disconnect in logic where it's like, and you alluded to this, if you don't saddle businesses with all this pointless regulation and the ridiculous zoning laws and some of these blue laws, I mean, I'm sure some of it's necessary, but a lot of it's not. If you don't make it so hard to do business, and if businesses are then allowed to flourish, then they will generate tax revenue. And, there's this disconnect with Democrats where on the one hand they want to make it so hard, and yet if they want that tax revenue, because you always hear about Democrats being so pro-tax, well then let businesses do business, and that will generate that tax revenue so they can continue to have their big government and all that. And it's just one of the things that drove me out.
It's the by force thing that gets me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There ought to be better ways to even the dreaded sales tax is almost better because it's voluntary. You don't have to buy. If you don't want to pay the tax, you don't buy.
Right.
But when we force people to pay things with income tax and property tax, I mean, you're holding a gun to people's head and forcing it.
Sure.
And then when you're freewheeling with the money, I mean, like in our town, that aggravates me that some little old lady might lose her house because we upgraded the tennis court. I don't understand why we're, as a town, doing things like buying and holding land. Shouldn't that be like the Audubon Society or
Right.
something? Why is the government buying and holding land
Yeah.
when it could mean a little old lady losing her house?
Yeah.
Because if she can't pay the tax, she'd be at gunpoint forced to leave her house. Over a tennis court or something? We shouldn't be in anything that's not absolutely essential, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. Are you a Ron Paul supporter, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. Do you?
I didn't like it that he ran as a Republican.
Right. He's
No,
another
that
one.
was a
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, that was. Yeah, the first time he ran, I didn't vote for him because of that.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, that drove me crazy. When you asked me, I said I'm a big L.
Yeah.
Because there's a big thing about that. You're a little L, you don't mind when someone runs as a Republican.
Right.
If you're a big L, you mind.
Right.
I'm a big L. I mind.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes sense.
I may be naive, but I mind.
We're getting close to the end of the hour. Like I said, it goes fast. But we want to mention the book again, A View from the Top, and where you have a website that I assume
Yes.
you can get this at.
Yes, I'll give you the website. It's winnerinYou.com, which is WINNERINYOU. And also on Facebook, I have a business page, which is facebook.com/winnerinyou.
Okay.
And I have I post marketing ideas almost every day.
Do you? Okay. What else can we find on the website, Winner and You? What else do you have up there?
When I'm speaking, I do a lot of public speaking all over the world. I have my schedule up there.
Okay.
And there's also pictures of a lot of my marketing ideas. You said you ran into the car, not literally, but you
Right. We did see your car, yeah.
Yeah, my car has a. Well, I'm not going to say you have to go on Facebook to see a picture
Okay,
of the car.
there you go.
But there's
There
a
you go.
picture right on there of the car.
When you do your speaking engagements, what do you speak about? Is
Marketing.
it about marketing? Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I talk about marketing, and in any other business it might seem regular stuff, but in direct sales, and especially in Avon, they were known for door-to-door.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So I was looking at what other businesses did. That's how I had the car idea.
I see.
Because in Ware, New Hampshire, believe me, you're not going door-to-door.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
no, not unless you want to get bit or run off.
Right.
You know, with a gun or something. But yeah, ask Gary.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But but in my company, it's very unusual marketing or in direct sales in general. People weren't marketing themselves. They were relying on family and friends.
Yeah.
And believe me, you can't earn six figures
Yeah.
door knocking.
Yeah.
Not in my mind.
What motivates you, by the way? I mean, we talked about what motivates you politically, but what motivated you to become an entrepreneur and you've been very
Money.
successful? Yeah.
Well, no, I spent 18 years in a single wide trail in a trailer park driving a Yugo and eating macaroni.
Yeah.
Do I want to continue doing that the rest of my life? No. Not that there's anything wrong with a trailer park, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I didn't grow up as a little girl saying, "Ooh, I hope I get to live in a trailer park."
Right.
Right? I want to
Yeah.
have money and want to travel and do things and meet people and
Yeah.
go places. And my 8-year-old daughter and I just got back from a trip to Hawaii, and last fall we went to the Mediterranean on Avon.
Yeah.
They paid for it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I want to do big things and see big places, and the only way you can do that with money.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, good, bad, or indifferent, money runs the world. So.
Oh, absolutely.
And I only want what I'm earning myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to forcibly take other people's money.
Right.
So I'm proud to be able to earn enough to do all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, Lisa, this has been great. Thanks very much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
And Winner in You?
Winner in You.
WinnerInYou.com is the website, so definitely check that out. And is this available on Amazon as well?
No, but it's available on my website.
Okay, on your website. So
Yes.
go to WinnerInYou.com to get the book, A View from the Top. I want to remind everybody, so next week here on the show we have Stephen DeRosa will be joining us,
Yes.
correct? Next week on the live television edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed. And don't forget about the live radio edition Saturday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. And who's my guest?
Joe Kaplan.
Joe Kaplan will be joining us live on the radio edition on IPMNation.com Saturday night at 11 p.m. Want to also thank both Glenn R.J. Willettes for calling in today. Sounds like Glenn's upset with me again. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Some people take themselves very seriously. But regardless, even if he's mad at me, I do support Glenn R.J. Willett for mayor. He is an independent, and anyone who, like you, Lisa, anyone who is not a Republican or a Democrat, it's just great to see people running against the two-party machine. So I do support Glenn, even if he's upset with me, and I mean that sincerely, Glenn, if you're watching, whether you believe it or not. Probably doesn't believe it, but whatever. And hey, anyone who's going to be in New Hampshire tonight, who's going to the KISS show, KISS is playing tonight at Meadowbrook in Guilford, New Hampshire. Little Mel and I will be there, as well as some other folks from IPMNation.com, like Dan Randlett will be there. And so if you're going to the KISS show tonight, find us and say hello. We'll be in the 10th row, and that will do it. Don't forget Little Mel's show Monday nights at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on IPMNation.com. And Lisa Wilbur, thank you again. And I hope someday I get to call you the Honorable Lisa Wilbur when you win, when you finally get to win for the New Hampshire State Legislature. And of course, I'll be back at 4 with Norm and Friends and at 6 with Gary on Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. And that'll do it for this week's Matt Connarton Unleashed Television Edition. Thanks, everybody.